Hey, welcome back to the Hope Mum Dad podcast. We have a special episode today for people who are at the beginning of their IVF or infertility journey, and we've put together a little episode where we talk about the 10 factors you should think about going into your IVF or infertility journey. If you at the beginning of it and you're looking at other ways of starting a family and you know that you might need to go IVF or other ways, these are a couple of things that we went through and we spoke to other people about that we thought we'd do a super duper episode and put them all together so you can think about them, talk to your friends and family, and, you know, just sort of have a bit of a mull about these ideas that you might not have thought about. Anyway, back to our normal introduction. Episode number
47
with my lovely wife
Becky
and myself, Fuzz, the tag along.
You're not tag along.
I'm a tag along.
You're a key
I'm
player.
a side piece.
Yeah.
On the
Side
podcast.
piece.
Yeah, that's what you call me. She actually referred to me as her side piece in the supermarket the other day. You were like, "Oh, where's my side piece gone now?" And I was like, "Oh, I got your stuff." We've got a new setup. Things might look a bit different. It was probably not worth the amount of hassle and faff moving everything around, but wherever, we're trying to make it a little bit better. If you ever have any ideas or things you want to talk, just not even IVF stuff, but like podcast stuff. If this sounds okay, good, bad, wherever, or you think there could be room for improvement, let us know, because that's my job, and Becky will shout out a side piece to go and do it.
Yeah, so we thought it'd just be useful to come up with 10 factors that you should maybe think about before you go into IVF journey. Of course, this applies to like other infertility procedures as well, like IUI, Clomid, everything else like that. Anytime that you're struggling with trying to conceive. Number one is, who are you going to share it with? Who are you going to share this with?
Who are you going to share this knowledge of your journey?
Yeah, it's a big deal. So
obviously we haven't told anyone about it.
There's generally two parties, and we firmly sit in the tell everyone and anyone about it.
Because it's only weird if you make it weird.
Yeah, but
it's not weird at all.
It's not weird, but ever. There's people who don't tell anyone. They might just go through it on their own if they're single. They might just talk to their partner about it.
Cats.
And that's it. Or their animals, yeah. And that's for various other reasons. So you want to decide straight away, like, what's your standpoint? And if you're not going through it on your own and you're going through it with a partner, then you need to decide and agree on that before you go into it. Like, are you going to... What are you both comfortable with? I don't even think you need
to agree, really, do you?
Yeah, you do, because
if you went, I want to talk to my mum about it, and I couldn't say no.
No, but if I didn't want to talk, you absolutely have to agree. Because
all right, don't listen to me.
If you didn't want,
luckily we
say
agreed,
you didn't want to tell someone that we were going through it, then I would have to not tell anyone. If you didn't want to tell people that we were struggling, then I wouldn't be able to tell people. There's loads of.
I don't think about it because because you don't care. Yeah. So it's good job Becky's on the podcast, because if it was if I was answering those questions, I'd be like, meh.
Yeah, and it's really important that you agree, and just decide quite early on, even if you are a single person going through it, like, you just need to, you can change your mind, obviously.
So maybe I'm weird though, because, you know, Rod Gilbert's documentary about IVF and infertility and all this kind of stuff, like, I don't get why people, and I'm not judging them, but I just don't get the weirdness about it, because it's not your fault. You haven't decided to be infertile or whatever.
No, but I think it's just a societal thing. Like, there's a lot of pressure for people to have children, and
no, but like, men are like embarrassed if they
there might be shame around
it.
It.
Why? Like,
because of societal pressure and expectation. It's a macho thing, isn't it?
Fuck society, as the great Pennywise
and the same with
said.
women. Sometimes they might feel like they aren't. Sadly, they might feel upset or sad
people
about
like that.
I
want to give them a big hug and be like, just tell everyone to go fuck themselves.
We're
lucky
it doesn't matter. In like white British culture that, like, it's not, like, we're quite fortunate that it's not a necessary expectation that we go on to have children necessarily. But in other cultures, I know, especially from listening to other podcasts where people have come from an Asian background, for example, they have a huge cultural pressure to have children, and if they can't, then it's like that it's not good.
Well,
like to the other
probably
people.
Try and talk to someone about that, because we don't really know what we're talking about.
No, we don't. So. But I'm just telling you that I've listened to other podcasts where that has come up, and that's sometimes why people might not share. So we're really lucky that we're from
But on the same note, I think people. I think our parents don't care what color we are or whatever. If they want us to have kids, they'll be disappointed if we didn't want to have kids, whether or not we can have naturally or via this way.
Yeah.
I think that kind of applies to families all over the place, right?
Yeah, probably.
But what you're saying is, like, in different cultures it's kind of more of a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same with marriage and other things.
But no matter what background you are, if your parents, some parents are like, luckily I was into us having kids, but then I've never had like a talk by your mum or dad or anything like, when you're gonna have kids.
No, but some people and families are like that.
Yeah, I know.
And
so my point was, to those families, it doesn't matter what like background you are. If there's pressure from your family, it's gonna suck. And
absolutely, yeah. And then you might decide not to tell anyone because you feel like, oh, you're letting people down. Do you know what I mean?
Well, if you choose to have, because you'll be supporting their idea, wouldn't you? If you want to have kids and you need treatment and stuff.
But you might feel like, I don't know. I'm just talking to you. I don't know.
Yeah, neither do I. Basically, we don't know
why.
It shouldn't be a big deal, but it is to some people, and it shouldn't be. And if you want to keep it quiet and not tell anyone for an easier life, I guess that's probably why, right?
Yeah.
One of the bad points about telling everyone that you do an IVF, I think you'll agree, because it affects you more than me, is everyone asks you all the time, how's it going?
That is the disadvantage of telling everyone, is that people know. But then there's different variations, there's different levels of telling people. You can tell people that you're going through treatment and having IVF or any fertility treatment and not tell them the dates, and then they can't really ask you specifically.
Or
you can be like us and tell everyone everything.
So I'm going through IVF, yeah, it's really exciting and everything. I'm telling people bits, but
I'll talk to you about it, don't talk to me about it.
Yeah. But without sounding like a dick.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, that'd be quite tough.
I just think whatever you decide, whether it's to share or keep it secret, you just need to have,
I think it's better to talk
like, a baseline agreement. I think it's good to talk to someone about it, even if it's not people people.
So imagine this, I'm
like us.
Because it's mostly the women who talk about the stuff. The guys just like,
yeah,
right, yeah. But so if I was a woman going through IVF, I'd role play it with my acting skills. But I'm going through IVF and I'm about to tell someone, I say, so yeah, we're going to go through IVF, and then they'll go, oh really? Yeah, I know someone did that, and you'd be like, yeah, it's quite exciting, it's quite unnerving at the same time, but I'm telling a couple of people. You could tell people you're only telling like good friends, even if you tell everyone, and then you win a few brownie points for them as well. You can say, that's
crazy.
You can say, it's early days and stuff, it's pretty exciting, so I'm telling a few people like that, but how would you say it without sounding,
I don't know. I just think
I'll call you.
Whatever you do, you just need to agree with yourself or your partner or whatever, however you're going through it. That's like your idea, how you want to set the boundaries.
No, I mean other general people, like brothers, sisters, aunties, things like that.
Yeah.
Like, maybe someone should come up, maybe someone should say, like, I'm going through IVF, I'll let you know when I get any news.
Yeah.
Don't ask me.
Yeah.
It sounds a bit rude.
No, it doesn't.
It's not
just like
rude.
it's a lot. There's a lot. It's a lot. Just say it's a lot, and
say, I'll call you, don't call me.
Yeah, basically.
Say, I'll have my people.
I'll let you know. Yeah, I'll update you when I've got more news. Basically.
Cool. Right.
But that could be a whole other podcast, like how to talk about it.
And this is a super duper condensed one with loads of helpful information for people at the beginning of the IVF or infertility journey.
Super duper condensed. 10 minutes on the first point.
Number 2.
So the number 2 one is, if you're doing IVF or treatment, who, how, when and where are you going to deliver the medication? How are you going to do that? Sometimes it's logistical. The clinic will tell you the times and stuff like that, so you might not get to decide where you're going to do it.
Logistics then.
Logistics.
Let's call this one logistics.
Logistics. Think about the logistics.
So
basically, what time do you need to do it? That's going to be a given. That's a set time. And then ideally, where you're going to do it, set up like a nice, calm, chill, relaxed place in your house if you're doing it at home. If you have to do it when you're at work or en route traveling anywhere, make sure you've got a kit.
Number 2 is treatment / logistics.
Yeah.
So just think about, don't think about too much, because if you're at the beginning of your journey, you'll be told what to do. But one thing I would say is if you're told to do something,
Yeah.
write it down. Even if they write it down for you, write it down on your own piece of paper.
Yeah.
And then have them check.
Yeah.
And just say, hi, there's a lot of information. I just want to get this right. Injection 1 is at this time.
Yeah.
Blah. And don't worry about feeling stupid or silly or whatever, because some of the nurses that helped us were like, oh, no, that's wrong.
Yeah.
And, everyone makes mistakes, but don't overthink it. But whenever you're told, just try it. Whenever you're told what to do and what's going to happen, just on your own bit of paper, don't do it on your phone. Put it on the paper first, then put it on your phone. I really think there's something in writing something on paper.
Yeah, it helps your memory.
Even if you put it on your phone, just try and write it on a bit of paper.
Yeah.
Have someone just, and even if you think you understand it and you think you're 100% okay, go over again.
Yeah.
Who's it going to hit?
So that's that side of it. And then whether you're going through it on your own, you would obviously administer it yourself. But if you're doing it with a partner, then you need to decide if you're going to take turns, if he's going to do it, if you're going to do it, if she's going to do it.
Can I say something on that?
Yeah.
So like a lot of people like the idea of sharing that process with their husband and stuff.
Or wife, or girlfriend, or boyfriend.
In our case, I was
Yeah.
saying, I'm just talking from our point of view. But okay, so everyone, like lots of people enjoy sharing that process with someone else.
Yeah.
I'm Mr. Practical, and I thought if you've been doing them all this time, you've been trained, you've got the muscle memory, you've got the experience and everything, not mess around with it.
Yeah.
That's my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
Probably unpopular. But if the person you're speaking to has the same idea,
Yeah.
maybe just crack on with it yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So some people will do it themselves and some people won't. Obviously, we're in a couple, but I did them all myself just because Fuzz wasn't keen on getting involved and messing it up, basically.
Well, yeah, I thought the benefits of you going, that's nice, outweighed the cons of, I've messed this up.
It depends, because some people might be too scared to do it themselves.
Yeah, but you're a tough girl.
Yeah.
And you did it.
Mm-hmm. So decide that, because that'll help you out long term. And then point number 3 is a bit of a ethical one, actually. You go through a huge signing forms and documentation stuff before any fertility treatment.
What's the title of number 3?
Title of number 3 is, would you want to share or donate any unused DNA, embryos, whatever product you're making, like embryos basically. Yeah. They ask you if you're open to using those things in research, if they're unused, or if you'd like to donate to other people who want to
there's no right or wrong answer. And some people don't think about it and they just go, yeah, why wouldn't I? Mm-hmm. I think science and technology is moving so fast that I don't really know what's going to be possible to be done with our DNA samples in the near future. Mm-hmm. On top of that, I know someone who was adopted, and I'm only saying this because I've talked to him about it, and he's brought it up, and he was worrying about he has no idea who his mum and dad are.
Yeah.
And he was maybe they're not very nice people. I worry if I've inherited their genes, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, well, if I'm in control of my body and DNA, sperm, etc., and then, we produce an embryo, you have no control on that once it leaves. Mm-hmm. You can have all the best intentions in the world, and again, I'm not judging anyone else. I'm just saying, for me, because I couldn't know for sure that human being would grow up and be safe and looked after and blah blah blah. I couldn't let go to be okay, because that's a human life. Yeah, that could be years of suffering and you know what I mean? You don't know. So that's my qualm about it, is that I would feel guilty if something, from us or me, because you can talk about your own side of it, but from me, if we set that off into the world and then it, became a human being and had a terrible, terrible life because of things out of our control, I would just be beside myself. I couldn't.
Yeah. On the flip side, obviously, the other opinion is that it's a really amazing gift that you can give someone that can't produce their own embryos for whatever reason.
It depends on what type of person you are. Obviously,
yeah.
I'm not saying that I'm right and other people are wrong, but I'm just saying that's something that I think about and it does bother me.
Yeah, it's your thought process, really. And yeah, it's a huge topic that you might just not have realized that you have to think about, because that's not a question that you would normally think about when you're trying to conceive naturally, is it?
No.
Like, what will happen to my future DNA? And the research kind of thing is huge as well. Obviously, it could help people or not.
For example, a lot of people might only be able to afford treatment if they
do egg sharing.
Yeah, which I think is a bit kind of, it's a bit pressury in it, because it's not really about, they conflate in two different things. They're saying, do you want a family? Yeah. Do you want a family? Yeah. Well, can we have this really precious resource from you that you probably wouldn't give away otherwise?
Yeah.
It's almost like black
pressure.
It is.
Yeah. So, but I think I would have considered that if we had to have private treatment.
Because you're like, whatever means necessary, I need it. I need it. Whereas I'm thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because you probably weren't really thinking about you.
I don't know.
You just went, how do I make it happen?
I think I was. I do. I think it would be nice to give someone eggs if they couldn't have them.
I know, but what if it was, that's... I know it's
because I know that people who are going through fertility treatment obviously really want a family as well. This is the other argument. People who are generally going through fertility, it's not an accident. Like, they really want a family, and most people who are doing that are obviously going to raise their family well.
That's true. And I kind of guessed that when I thought about it, I thought it would just be like out into the world.
No, because they're not just going to go and throw eggs into random people.
Like. But people, maybe a single person with no family or no partner, no immediate family, and something happens to him, and then that child goes into kid. Like, it's not as clean cut as it sounds. It's good, and anyway, that's just the way I feel about it. Like, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of women feel a bit. Obviously, we're not going to tell people who said what and whatever like that, but from watching other podcasts and other people in the community, it seems like a lot of women are quite. Not against it, but have a problem that take a while to get to that point where they're comfortable
with taking on an egg donor
or giving,
using it.
It's a big deal. Like, if it wasn't a big deal, it is a big deal, and there's no right or wrong answer. It's
a big deal, like you say, because if you're using a donor egg or a donor sperm, then that's not your DNA that creates your baby that you're going to love and bring up, isn't it? So it is. And
what if you regret it, or afterwards you're like, I need to find that baby?
Well,
if you donate an egg,
I don't think you can. That's the point. There's rules, so that's why it's one really big factor to think about, like, and agree on with your partner. And
if
say yes. Like I said, it's really becoming more and more popular for people to go through it independently. So that's really amazing.
Point.
So factor number 4, or point number 4, is would you have a medicated or a natural cycle? Obviously, your NHS or clinic or whoever you're going with are going to advise you which is best for you, but it's
something to think about in it.
Something to think about, and not something that lots of people know about. So look into that yourself. And
obviously, just like we're just sort of letting you know that that's a thing, because then you can read about it and whatever, and then when you do speak to the doctors, you won't be so like surprised, or you'll have a bit more of an idea. I mean, the doctors know what they're doing, and sometimes they'll prescribe one over the other, won't they? But you've said in some cases they ask people, you could do either. So it's probably just a heads up. You can like have a little look into that.
Factor number 5, point number 5 is you need to find out the like conditions of your CCG, your clinical commissioning group. So are you entitled to IVF on the NHS? If you are, how many rounds do you get?
Is that the same as the trust?
Yeah.
So the group is linked to the trust.
NHS trust that you in your area. Yeah.
So each NHS trust provides treatment.
I don't know if it's down to trust. It's down to CCGs.
Yeah.
Clinical commissioning groups.
But the NHS is broken. Okay, it's kind of confusing, because like I think like the group is like the legal, like this is all like rules and regulations and stuff. But what I think it comes down to after that is each NHS trust has its own group, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So, but basically,
but the CCG decides how much.
The CCG decides, and I might be right, but basically, I'm pretty sure it's like each NHS group trust. Like we got the Vale and Cardiff in the Vale, or the Vale and Newport, or wherever. Basically, look at the group, and then just look at like the trust, the NHS trust, if you go in on the NHS, or the clinic on the private thing. Mm-hmm. Because you might be on a border of two.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it's by postcode and stuff, but basically,
in Wales, it's not by across Wales. Everyone's entitled to NHS treatment if they don't have children already.
Yeah.
So we're different in Wales, but in England and maybe Scotland, I'm not sure. It's down to the CCG.
It does vary by location, because there's some places that didn't offer any, right?
Yeah, and we've spoken to Amber Itzo before, and she did a IVF campaign to make it allowed in Peterborough, in the area that she lives, and she's still campaigning for it to be accessible to everyone everywhere. So that's definitely something to look into, because it'll have a huge impact on whether or not you can access fertility treatment, because obviously for us, it might be cheaper
to move house to somewhere that has it on the NHS.
Yeah, sometimes.
I mean, that's crazy.
But we are lucky that we get it in Wales, because we probably wouldn't have been able to afford it privately. So that's a massive thing to think about.
Yeah. So what's it called again? The
Clinical Commissioning Group.
Yeah.
Clinical Commissioning Group,
yeah.
The CCG.
And then just look at it, if you go in NHS, if it's linked to your local trust.
Yeah. Point number 6 is, will you need any time off work? I did take a bit of time off work. It completely depends on you.
I think your case is a bit different because you were a teacher, and this was through the height of COVID and all kinds of weird stuff. But I mean, hopefully we're on the tail end of that now.
I don't think that there's any legal allowances for you to have time off. I don't think it counts as sick leave or anything. I'm not really sure.
Maternity now, or
no, for IVF treatment, when you're going through treatment.
Yeah. So if you need. I mean, some people have got such horrible bosses.
We're really lucky because we were really well supported by my school.
Yeah.
But yeah,
still are.
Yeah, it's different for everybody. So,
but if you've got a private employer, I mean, obviously, I think I'm saying that if you've got if you're employed by the government / council, then wherever, then they can't really mess around with your rights, because it's not what they should be doing.
This kind of links back to the first point as well, because you might not have told your workplace that you're going through this and what treatment you're having. So it really depends on you. It's a completely personal choice. I took time off.
You'd have to tell your manager or boss, whatever.
Yeah, I think we were advised by the clinic to take time off after the egg collection. Definitely the day after, and obviously the day of. Because you need to rest. It's an invasive treatment. But after the transfer, you don't need time off after that. But it's just a personal choice. It depends on what you want to do. So that's another thing to talk about with your partner, or think about if you're on your own, because it comes down to money as well, doesn't it?
And also, one point of advice linked to that I would highly recommend to everyone is, if you work in an industry that has a union, be a member of that union months before. If you're thinking about IVF, then be part of that union, because unions are great. They look after people's rights and protect workers and everything anyway. But if most unions will say that you have to be joined for a couple of months before any issues. So if you can foresee that if you're a bit worried about that kind of stress going on, make sure you're a member of a union, and make sure you're a member of a union at least a couple of months before you're planning on going through treatment. Yeah. Next point,
number 7 is decide by yourself or with your partner how many times are you willing to go through it, because obviously it's not guaranteed.
Are we nearly there yet? That's why we should call this point, because when you're almost there, and then you're like, oh, it didn't work. Oh, I have another go wrong.
Yeah, it comes into lots of factors. Obviously, how much you get, how much allowance you get, how much money you have if you're going privately, how much allowance you get on the NHS if you get NHS allowance.
If you're Scrooge McDuck in your bath full of gold coins, then you can just keep going and going and going and going. But
Yeah.
if you
But
have
also
finite-
there's the mental side of it as well. So even people who can afford as much as they want, it's a difficult mental thing to go through, and constantly having letdowns and failures.
in
or
a way, I think if you
failures is the wrong word, but disappointments.
if you have infinite amounts of money, then you are kind of like at a disadvantage, really, because at least if you were restricted with money, you couldn't afford to do it 10 times, and you wouldn't have to go through that disappointment and heartache and stuff again and again and again. Whereas if you had infinite amounts of money, you could.
Obviously it would change as well, but I just think it's good to have an idea. It's good to have like a ballpark figure or idea of how many times you're willing to go through it, with,
and then maybe look at other options too.
Yeah.
Some people are just hard no to other options.
Yeah.
But there are other options, like, you know, egg donor, surrogacy.
Yeah, that's my
adoption.
point 10.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Well, we'll forget I said that. But yeah, it's a big thing to think about. And maybe just like sit down. If you've told other people and you're telling other people, you can sit down and be like, right, let's be realistic, okay? Because life isn't fair. Because if it was fair, we wouldn't be in this stage in the beginning. Yeah. So now we're here. How much are we willing to kind of go with it? Because you can go. Potentially, you could, go really hard on it and keep not having the results you want, and then your other part of your life suffer.
Yeah, I think speaking from our point of view, we always knew that we'd have 2 rounds on the NHS, and we knew that could be multiple transfers depending on how successful.
I used to say, like if that's what happens, that's what happens, and we'll just adapt and move on with our life. Yeah, doing other things. I mean, that sounds a bit blunt, but like ultimately you don't really have a choice unless you were like, no, I'm hardcore adamant. No,
that's why you need to decide,
because it's male factor. You could, and it wouldn't be wrong for you to be like, actually, I really want kids, and you're not into doing it this way. I'm out. I'm just going to find someone else. You could though. Yeah. It's definitely it's not nice.
Well, we had a conversation with someone about that the other day, and you were shocked that happens.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying to go and do that. Okay. But it happens.
Yeah, it does.
And
happen.
if it did, I'd be like, oh, but no.
That's why it's good just to have like agreements with people and have like a ballpark idea, kind of.
People don't like surprises.
Yeah.
People don't like going along with things and then going, oh, by the way, you need to do this, or I'm out. And you'd be like, you'd feel hurt either way then.
Yeah. Point number 8 is, if you're in a same-sex couple, how are you going to decide who does what? So if you're 2 women, obviously someone needs to donate eggs and someone needs to carry the baby, so you need to decide which way around that'll be. If you're 2 guys, then you need to decide who's going to carry your baby. Are you going to go for a surrogate? Is it going to be someone in this country, someone abroad? Is it going to be a family member? Lots to consider. And I guess like for anyone who's not thought about it before, then that's a big thing to consider, and that could come down to money as well.
Exactly. We don't really know too much about
we don't
that,
but
so.
We spoke to Chrissy and
we should get them back. We spoke to the girls.
My bun hair oven, and they were doing shared IVF, which was really cool, where they used one of the girls' eggs and the other girls carried it. So that's what shared IVF is, which is really cool. So there's lots of options to look into, and lots of different ways to go about doing it. Point number 9 is plan your wardrobe. I've definitely mentioned this before, but for women going through fertility treatment, you need to consider that you're going to be whipping off your bottom half a lot of the time. So think about your footwear, think about your outfits, and make sure that you're
easily accessible,
because there's going to be lots of invasive appointments where you get checked out, and it just makes it all easier if you're not like ripping off a million layers or faffing around with tights, basically.
So in the way you went, it was quite warm when you did your bits, no?
Yeah.
So if it was cold, can you get away with like a dress with no like tights and leggings and stuff?
Well, by the time we had our successful transfer and we went for scan in December, it was cold then, and I wore leggings and boots, so I just whipped off my leggings and a dress. It's just good,
so the leggings
useful.
wasn't too bad.
Leggings is okay.
It's more like anti-trousers.
Tights really, and like lace-up boots. Don't wear lace-up boots because it's going to take forever.
Lace-up thigh-high boots.
Yeah,
Who's wearing them to an IVF?
Well, they're fashionable, so lots of people would want to wear them, but
yeah, I'm only joking. I have no idea what people wear.
Not ideal for that treatment.
No.
So sandals if you're in the summer, slip-on shoes or zip-on boots like in the winter, and tights sometimes are a must, but they're just a bit of a faff to get on and off. So
just be prepared to sort of...
Yeah, and I just think if you wear a dress or like a smock top and not jeans, then you feel a bit more covered, a little bit more, you've got a bit more decency when they're like, if you need to jump off the bed quickly, you're not just like in your top half and no knickers.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If you're wearing a dress, then you can cover your lady bits.
Yeah. Good tip. Next point.
Next point and last point is what we said before, like consider all the scenarios. So when you find out that that you do need fertility treatment and help with having a baby, you need to think about all the scenarios, like Chris said, Fuzz said.
So, and just to wrap it into number 10 is like, have a plan and be prepared for news that you don't want to hear.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately, most people have to sort of take some news that they don't really want to hear on board at some point. I mean, a lot of people forget the good news eventually. Yeah. But I think it's really important. Thanks, Coco. Sound like a gremlin when I'm doing this. It's really important to just set your expectations high, because people go through bad times and people have bad times. Mm-hmm. But I think the thing which makes or breaks it from being unbearable and just shit is managing your expectations. Yeah. Like, if you go, this could work, this might not, I'll treat it like a bonus if it does. I'm a pessimistic optimist. I'm always like, it's not going to work until I know it's worked. Mm-hmm. It might work, but as far as I'm aware right now, we don't know. Yeah. Yeah. And that's just my way of dealing with it. But
yeah, I think a lot of people have the expectation or it's the idea, because maybe that's the way it is in films and portrayed in media, that if you have IVF, you will have a baby. And that's so often not the outcome. Yeah. Not in the, you might need to look at other avenues. Yeah. And you should think about them and just think about how you feel about them in the beginning. Yeah. Because, I mean, hopefully you don't have to get that far and think about these things, but you could talk about them a little bit. You have to take small little steps. Yeah. Talking about these subjects and stuff like that. Yeah. Because even with your closest friend or your partner, whoever you're with and going through this with, or if you're on your own, like, you might come up across topics that you've never even had to consider before. So yeah, and imagine if the person that you Coco, do you mind? Imagine the person that you're going through this with, you just assume that they're going to have the same answer as you. Yeah. And then you bring up the subject and like, absolutely 100% definitely not. And you're like, oh. Yeah. So it's small steps, but, just try and cover all your angles basically, because, And if you do have different views, it's not always like make or break. Like, we've got different views on quite a few things, so, but it's fine. It's okay. Yeah, so it's all around, just like talk to yourself, your family, or just sit your partner
down and go through it methodically.
Yeah, and do your research. Look on the internet.
Don't do too much research though. Like, I think literally just take on enough. Just take on just enough for each bit. Make sure that it's right for you. But if you don't even know if you're infertile, a lot of people might be watching and they might be trying and they might just be like interested on how it might work and stuff. Go to a doctor, get checked out, get figured out. A lot of doctors don't even look at male infertility for a long time. That's what set us back for so long.
And I think it's just becoming more and more popular. We should try and get someone on who's gone through part of the IVF treatment to preserve their fertility, both single people and couples. If they they think about having children. They know they want children in the future, but they don't want to have them yet. Lots of people do it as a choice, you know. It's not like a last resort or a we need this. They're doing it to preserve their fertility. So
because things are different for everyone.
It's more accessible now, I think. So they're the 10 things we think and have read and heard about.
Helpful.
Yeah.
Little baby steps for everyone to think about if you're at the beginning, at the beginning, or if you're in the middle. So that's probably from us. But if you want to help us, we'd really appreciate it if you could give us just a bit of love on the social medias and stuff, and on YouTube. In the comments. This kind of goes back to that point. Are you telling people about it? Obviously, if you're not telling people about it, you're not going to go publicly like commenting and doing stuff. But if you are,
you might have like what's an alias?
Yeah.
Like that is a good way to not tell people about it, but to talk about it, because I do think it's really important that you talk to people.
Yeah.
Even if you don't share
with people you know. If you have an alias and you're all secretive and you're not, speak to us. Drop us a DM on Instagram. Becky runs all the stuff. I basically do the YouTube, but Becky does the comments. But let us know if there's anything that we could follow up on any of those points that could make it more helpful for you. And don't be alone. If you kind of, don't really have anyone in real life that you can really talk to about it because of the things that we mentioned earlier, get involved. Talk to people on the online community, and that includes us. Yeah,
cool.
Right, we're gonna get going. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back with another episode next week.
Yeah,
and we'll see you in a bit.
Have a good day.